Hey guys, welcome back to the Curly Reader. My name's Amanda, and today I want to share with you all of the books that I added to my Goodreads TBR during the month of May. So during the month of May, I added 8 books to my Goodreads TBR. These are all books that I have heard about from multiple different places, and I will absolutely be linking all of the sources of where I found out about these books down below in the description box, so please be sure to check those out. These are not books that I have hauled, only books that I have added to my want to read list on Goodreads. So, like I said, I have 8 books here. I read 12 books this month, so that is very good progress and way of getting books off the TBR and kind of decreasing that number a little bit. So I'm just kind of going to go through these. A lot of these I don't really know much about what they're about, but anyway, let's get started. So the first one that I added was Instant Karma by Marissa Meyer. I heard about this one from Haley in Bookland. She did an anticipated releases video. I'm finding out that her anticipated releases videos, I tend to kind of cue in on books a lot on those. So, but this is one that I have no idea what's about at all. I think it's a YA romance, maybe. That's what the cover looks like, but all I know is it's by Marissa Meyer, and I really like her writing. So I loved the Lunar Chronicles. It's one of my favorite series ever. I have really enjoyed the Renegades trilogy. I still need to read the last book. Wasn't the biggest fan of Heartless, but I'm interested to see what she does in something that's not exactly fantasy related. So I added this one. I think it'll be a good, fun read. So the next 2 that I added are both from the Modern Mrs. Darcy's summer reading list. So the first of which is The Switch by Beth O'Leary. This sounded so cute, and I cannot wait to read this. It's basically the book version of the movie The Holiday, where 2 people switch houses. One's in the city, one's out in the country, but this time it is a woman and her grandmother. They decide that they're going to swap houses, kind of swap surroundings, environments, whatever, and it just sounds so perfect. I cannot wait to read this. So that is one that I added from her summer reading list. And then the other one that I added is Musical Chairs by Amy Popel. And this is a family drama series. I don't really remember exactly what it was about now, but I remember when I read about it in her kind of reading list that she came up with, I thought it sounded really, really good, and the cover was really cute, so we all know I like a good cover. So I added that one as well. Another one that I added to my list is The Return by Victoria Hislop. This is one that a subscriber recommended to me. She watched my review of Fountains of Silence, and this has to do with the Civil War, the Spanish Civil War, and Francisco Franco. And I'm like, yes, please. I would love to read more about that, because I was completely fascinated by that when I read Fountains of Silence. I had never really read anything about the Spanish Civil War, so I really thought that that would be fun. So I added that one to my list. One that I added from Colby Sharp, who we all know is very influential in my Goodreads list. I only added one from him this month, and that is Closer to Nowhere by Ellen Hopkins. This is about 2 teenagers, or preteens, I think, younger teenagers maybe. One whose mom, I think, just died of cancer, and his dad was abusive, and so he came to live with his cousin, and so it's from the 2 cousins' points of view. I think it's told in verse maybe, and so yeah, it just sounded so good, and yeah, added that one. Another one I added is just a sequel of a book that I had already read and finally got around to adding it to my list, and that is Majesty by Katharine McGee. It is the sequel to American Royals, which I read earlier this year and really, really enjoyed. It's a YA kind of alternate history kind of book, where like if during the Revolutionary War, when we won, if Washington would have become king instead of president, we would have had a royal family in the United States. What would that have looked like? And so the first book followed the royal kids, and so this is the sequel to that, and I'm excited to read that eventually. The next one that I added, my husband and I just recently, within the last few weeks, finished watching the show Waco on Netflix, which was so good. And I definitely went down a rabbit hole of trying to find out more about Waco after this, reading this, or watching this show. And one of the books I added, though, was one of the books that the show was based off of, and that is Gary Nessner's book, Stalling for Time, My Life as an FBI Hostage Negotiator. So the show was based off of the books by Gary Nessner, who was one of the FBI hostage negotiators at Waco, and David, I'm having a total mind blank now, one of the survivors. The one whose Macaulay Culkin's brother played him in the show. I can't remember his last name now. It's going to drive me crazy. But anyway, it was based off of both of their books. And I have watched so many interviews from the survivor's point of view. And so I just added this one because I think it'd be really interesting to hear the hostage negotiator side of it. And it's also not only about Waco. It's about a lot of different things. And that whole situation just made me very interested in his life and all of the different circumstances he had found himself in, and so I added that to my list. And then the last one that I added to my list is The Book of Hopes by Katherine Rundell. And I have mentioned this so many times on my channel, but Anna James, who is the author of Tilly and the Book Wanderers, had Katherine Rundell on her YouTube channel to talk about The Book of Hopes, which is right now it's an ebook that you can access for free. I will link all of that down below. And it is a compilation of over 100 middle grade authors, mostly from the UK, that put together this book of short stories, poems, things like that. Nothing's over. I think, I don't know. They're very, very short little snippets of things that are all hope-filled. And it was a way for her to help during the coronavirus stuff. So she had been contacted by parents and teachers who had kids, middle grade age kids, who were really, really struggling. And so she thought this would be a good way to give them hope during this time. And she read aloud her contribution to it on the video, and it was so beautiful. I loved it so much, and so I really, really want to read this, whether I read it after it comes out in print format this fall or whether I access the ebook and read it that way. I want to get around to reading this because it just seems like it's going to be amazing. It is not by Katherine Rundell. She helped compile it. I should have rephrased that earlier, but that one made it on the list as well. So those are all of the books that I added to my Goodreads TBR during the month of May. If you have heard of any of these, I would love to hear your opinions and thoughts about them down below. And yeah, other than that, I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope that you stick around and subscribe. And until next time, see ya.